Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 625. The topic is trainer education, and the title is, What If You're the Problem? Well, doesn't that build some suspense? So, you just might be the problem, and we're going to talk about why. Now, this is in relation to trainer who had reached out. So I've owned Brutal Iron Gym now for 9.5 years, and I've been a personal trainer for 18 years. So I've done a lot of counseling with trainers, and we offer a lot of different types of services where we help with writing programming for like difficult clients, not necessarily that they're difficult people, just difficult situations or circumstances. So different challenges that maybe our trainers kind of new to, but we do a lot of just different type of counseling, even for business. So one of the things that comes up every once in a while, and it came up recently, therefore it kind of brought up the idea of doing the podcast, was someone was feeling frustrated with not having enough clients. And they were making statements that kind of were annoying, and I thought that it might be something that would be good for everybody to kind of be aware of. And a couple of the statements they were making in our conversation we were having was, people don't want to work hard anymore. So the trainer felt like they were pushing clients to be their best, and people were just lazy, and no one really wanted to try hard, and people aren't as dedicated as that trainer was, and that's why they don't have clients. Another phrase they said was people don't want to pay for a trainer anymore, meaning they thought like the economy being slightly troubled as it is, and this was even something the person was having an issue with before the virus kind of shut everything down. It was they had tried to build like their own facility, couldn't find support of it, and therefore kind of blamed people on not wanting to spend money on physical fitness and physical health. So that was another statement they made, was that people don't value physical fitness anymore. So according to this trainer, they thought people don't want to work hard, they don't care about the physical health, and they don't have the money for a trainer. So the phrase they kept using was people, people, people. People don't want to do this. People don't want to do that. Da, 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 da. And the question I then posed to them was, what if it isn't the people? What if it's you? So that's what I want to talk about today, is kind of some traits or some behaviors that I think are in the way of someone as a trainer building their clientele. So these will be kind of like just five. There's many more than five, but this is enough for one podcast. So like 5 don'ts of being a likable trainer. So if you want to get clients and it's unrelated to other issues, so for example, what could be some reasons that we have low client count? And some of the things is people just don't know you exist. So you might not have a clients because no one knows you freaking train anybody. You don't have any marketing. You don't have any exposure. You may have told a couple friends. You may have an Instagram account that has 100 followers, but really there's no exposure, so people don't know you exist. So that's one thing you definitely want to check out. And we have a ton of marketing podcasts, by the way, under our trainer education podcasts. So a trainer education podcast is done about every 4th podcast, and we have 600 and some total podcasts. So whatever 600 and some divided by 4 is, that's how many personal trainer podcasts we have, which is quite a bit. Okay, so well over 100 resources for you to learn more about things like marketing and exposure. The other thing they could think of is people aren't signing up for you as a trainer because they don't know your value. They don't know what you know. They don't know how you can help them. So in the market of personal trainers, how do you stand out? Other than just being, oh, this is the closest trainer to me, you want people to pick you for other reasons, of course. You want them to see value in you. You want them to be able to drive past other gyms, other facilities, other trainers to you because you have value. So if you aren't getting clients, that might be a reason. First of all, they don't know you exist. The ones who do know you exist. Maybe they don't know what you know. Maybe you're not sharing enough content on social media, not sharing the story of how you can help them. So that's something to think of. Another thing is people can't afford you. So I've talked to trainers who have priced themselves out of the market that they are currently in, and also for the stage of being a trainer they are. So trainers who are brand new to training, they want to charge like $100 an hour. No one knows who the hell you are, and there's a trainer right down the road who only charges $30 an hour. So that's probably not the best place to start. So you can also offer different types of services. So maybe you only want one-on-one personal training, but a great place to build your clientele might be through group training. So there's a lot of variables that come into play when it comes to marketing, exposure, pricing structures, other than just maybe you being the problem with like your communication. So you want to make sure you research into those things and make sure that you're trying to do your best towards those things to help build your clientele. So the other thing we're going to talk about, what we're going to talk about today, is our style of communication. So when we're with clients, how can we be more likable? And this doesn't mean that your clients have to like you in results to where you're being too much of a friend and not enough of a trainer. We're going to talk about that here in a second. You do have to find a balance, but you also have to be a likable person. And let's talk a little bit about that. And then at the end, we're going to offer some help for some resources. Okay. So one of the first things I wrote down is like the top five, don'ts of being a likable trainer is number one is negativity. Don't be negative. Oh my gosh. Just be somebody that anybody can stand. Okay. So if every time a client comes in, you just, bitch and whine about how your life's going or da 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 da, no one wants to hear that. They don't care. They're going to be polite. They're going to pretend like they care, but they're not going to come back. So one of the big things that I've noticed, and like I said, I've been a personal trainer for 18 years. I even drove to people's houses when I first started training. People have enough crap in their own life to deal with. They don't need your crap as well. So one of the greatest things you can do in terms of a service is to just be positive. Just be a positive influence in their life. Be someone that when you're around, they feel happy or they at least don't get dumped on. Okay, so don't dump your garbage on theirs. So that's a big, big thing that's important to kind of be aware of is if they're complaining, that's their way of kind of working off frustration, kind of working out frustration. So if they're complaining, let them work out their negativity. Don't join in on it. So if they're complaining about something, don't you start complaining about it, and then all of a sudden you're turning into a complaint fest, and there's actually no training getting done. So it doesn't mean you have to be, Molly Miss Sunshine or be fake, but it does mean that you aren't there to treat their session like a therapy session for you. Okay, so just be positive. Try to be more happy. Try to be at least neutral, to where at least they know when they spend time with you, they're going to be better off for that time, just even in personality wise, let alone being a good trainer or having knowledge or anything like that. So that's something we definitely want to kind of share. So one of the phrases I get often when I have clients for a long period of time is I'll come in, I'll ask, how are you doing today? And I really only mean how is their body doing. I don't really care about the other stuff because sometimes they'll come in, they're like, oh, I'm tired today. I'm like, you're tired every day. Shut up. Did you do anything to get more sleep? Did you do anything to get better energy eating wise? So I usually, the first time they complain about something, if I have any knowledge, I will support them and try to help them. Maybe the second time they complain, I'll kind of just check in. Hey, did you do any of the things that we already discussed? By the third time I tell them that I don't care anymore, don't tell me. If you're not trying to fix it, I don't want to hear about it. So sometimes they'll tell me, they'll go, I know, you don't want to hear about it. And I'm like, yeah, so shush. So I do care about my clients, but I only care once. And that's part of kind of getting rid of negativity. So if they come in and they always feel tired, well, they know that there's something they can do about that. So we talk about it, we educate on them, we try to reinforce it here and there, but we don't participate in just letting them stay in that misery. So you can at least be that one resource for them or that one kind of kick in the pants that motivates them to do the right thing so they can get rid of that negativity around you. So I once cut a client one time who was paying me over $600 a month because every time they came in like Eeyore and had a horrible mindset and wouldn't really try very hard at training. They were always tired, always whining. They never did the things we talked about for sleep. They never did the things we talked about for food. And I told them that if you're going to come in here, hee-haw around and be negative, I have people who want this time slot. So I don't care about the money, but I have somebody who will actually listen to me and who will take the benefit of my knowledge. So I told the client that we were good friends. We parted ways. We're actually still friends. But I went ahead and took that time for somebody who would actually listen. So make sure that you don't get dumped on too often yourself, but make sure most of all that you're not doing that to them. Okay. So we have more podcasts that'll help, by the way, talking about that further down about how to balance that part of being a friend, being somebody who kind of listens like a listening ear, but then also you don't want to be an enabler. So the second thing we have is no cell phones and to actually give your client attention. So your client does not want to hear you talking about what you and your friend did, for 10 minutes last night while they're trying to wait to start their session. So I've actually seen this happen when I go to big gyms and to work with personal training directors for efficiency in their business, trying to make more money or improve their services or whatnot. You'll see it actually, unfortunately, pretty common is a trainer will be talking with somebody across the gym. They're yelling back and forth at each other while that trainer's client is doing like hamstring curls on the machine, and their form is absolutely atrocious, but the trainer isn't even paying attention. So they're just yapping to their friend, and that's horrible. Don't do that, okay? So if you don't have clients, that can be a major reason why, is because no one likes to be ignored, especially not anybody who's paying for your time and attention and your knowledge. So make sure you're paying attention to them. One gym that I went to, they had this app on their phone where the trainer could look up exercises based on body parts. And the trainer director argued with me about the cell phone concept. And he said, well, I think my trainers should always have their cell phones. That way they can look up different exercises, this and this and this and that. And I told him, if your trainers don't already know what exercises to do before that person comes in, they're not a good trainer. They're not prepared. So if the person comes in, they say, I want to work on my chest, and I have to pull up an app to think of chest exercises, oh my God, why am I even a trainer? So that app might be something that they can use in their own time to research things to use as an educational resource, but they sure as hell shouldn't be pulling up exercises as the client's talking to them. You can say, well, what if the client had an issue, and we had to make some modifications? Well, that's rare, okay, much more rare than having somebody needing their cell phone with them all the time. And that's something where that comes up from time to time. You can then go get your cell phone with the client and say that you're going to look up the app, but you don't need to have your cell phone in your hand open all the time. So that's extremely, extremely important, is that your attention needs to be on them. So the first rule at our gym is don't bother me when I'm working out. So because I'm the owner, and if I'm working out, that means I'm just a gym member at that time. I don't want to hear about it, whatever your problems are to any degree whatsoever at all. That also coincides with when I'm training clients. If I'm training a client, that client is paying for my time and attention. Do not bother me. So if somebody needs to contact me about, some payment issues with the gym, or they have to update their card, I don't care if I'm with a client. That's not an issue. You can text me, you can email me later. That person is paying for my time and attention. Therefore, they're going to get the best of my time and attention in my education. So that's something you definitely want to pay attention to, is don't have cell phones. Make sure that you're paying attention to them. Make sure that they're the center of your focus, because that's what deserves to be the center of your focus. Okay? So the third thing we have is inappropriate support style. Now, we have podcasts we've talked about in regard to balancing being a friend and a trainer, and balancing what we call the tough love balance, where you want to be supportive to somebody, but you also have to kind of kick them in the butt when they're being mopey and they're not doing what they should do. And it's trying to find that balance between those two is very difficult. So the person who initially kind of talked to me about this, and they were having trouble getting clients, and they were making statements like, nobody wants to work hard, and, I push my clients, but, they never come back because they just can't handle it. No, you're probably being a total jerk. You're probably being a drill sergeant, yelling at people. And even body language has a huge component with this. So we have a past podcast about body language, and I've actually talked with other clients, other trainers before, who, when they would train people, they'd have their arms folded. And that's always a really negative, it almost looks like you're judging the person, even if you're trying to be supportive. If your arms are folded and you're just staring at them, it looks like you're almost annoyed at them. So you have to be careful of your kind of body positioning. We had a lady who was a trainer, and she used to stand with her arms clasped, her hands clasped behind her back, because she used to be in the military. But that's a really kind of aggressive stance when you're looking at body language and you're trying to communicate with a client. So you have to be aware that not only do you need to be careful of your words being too aggressive, you also need to be careful of your body language being too aggressive. So if people come in and they get the workout in, or they're trying their best, but they feel like you're just judging the whole time, telling them they're not working hard enough, or you're yelling at them the whole time rather than being kind of supportive, then that's going to definitely scare them away. So it is true that we need to push our clients to be their best, to fill in the gaps that they have. Otherwise, for regards to physical health, if somebody knew what to do and they were doing it all the time, they probably wouldn't hire the trainer. So there's probably something they're uneducated in. They just need extra education. Maybe they need motivation. Maybe they need accountability. So we have to fill in what their needs are, but you want to fill that in a guiding, supportive way, not being in a total jerk. So any trainer who's ever like we all started somewhere. So we all started with trying stupid fad diets. We all started with trying stupid exercises. We all wanted more weight than we could really handle with good form. We all have complained and whined about how hard we had to work for the results. Every single trainer has been through every place that a client is going to have to go through. So when you see somebody in that stage and you're like, oh, geez, oh whiz, I can't believe they're so weak and blah, blah, blah. Bull crap. You were weak at once. So how did you get out of it? That's what you need to share with them. You need to be a guide towards them, not just always judging them and telling them, what they're doing wrong. So I'm assuming that with the way that person was talking about people not wanting to work hard, and I tell people what to do and they never come back, he's probably just like really aggressive in his teaching style. If he's teaching at all, he's probably just telling them they're lazy or they need to do more or this or that. He's probably overly aggressive. And that's one of the reasons why people aren't coming back. So podcast number 488, titled Brutal Honesty, the Tough Love Balance, is a great one to check out if you want to decide, okay, am I being tough enough or am I being too tough? And that podcast discusses where do you find that balance? How do you know to find that balance? Okay, and that's podcast 488. The other issue you have is if somebody can be aggressive and be a drill sergeant, but also somebody can be too passive and just be like a best friend. People are not coming to you as a trainer to be their best friend. And I have actually heard clients change trainers within the same gym or in different circumstances, and they'll say, like, I like so-and-so, whatever the trainer's name was, but I wasn't getting results. And the problem was that the friend trainer wasn't pushing them in their weak spots, wasn't pushing them to be better than what they wanted to be. So that person was coming in maybe in a little bit of a bad mood, the client. They didn't really want to work hard that day. So the trainer's like, oh, I understand. You have a rough day. And they would just kind of modify everything down for the client. Next time they come in, maybe they're super excited, so they go ahead and do more aggressive training. But the trainer would always just modify up or down with the client, but they never tried to push them to be more up on their down spots, or they never tried to regulate their crazy excitement when they were too high, maybe trying to be too aggressive, which would then cause burnouts. So somebody might want to come in and do this crazy hardcore workout that they're not properly fueled for, nutrition-wise, or they haven't been training up to that certain level. And if you're a trainer, you're aware that, oh my gosh, this is way above them right now. If they do this today, they're probably going to be destroyed for a week. Don't do that. Okay, let them have fun. Maybe find other ways to have fun that are lighter weight loads or lighter intensities. But make sure that you let them be more consistent with their training. And your job is to try to level them out. So if they come down low, try to bring them up. If they come up crazy high, try to bring them not necessarily down a little bit, but try to control that a little bit. So we want to balance being somewhere between there, between being the drill sergeant and the best friend. Okay, so you want to support people. You want to give them compassion when they need it, but you also need to push them at times when they're not willing to push themselves. So the podcast that will help you learn that balance, and this is a very important balance, is podcast number 488 and podcast number 453, titled Balancing Being a Friend and a Trainer. So a lot of good trainers, people who mean well, they're good-hearted people, they want to help others, they unfortunately fall too close to that best friend, and you need to develop a little more toughness as a trainer sometimes. So if you're getting clients and your clients voice that they like you, you seem to have great relationships with your clients, but they seem to fade away after a month or 2 or 3 months, it's probably because they're not getting really good results. And it doesn't mean you have to be a jerk, it just means that you have to maybe push them a little bit more. So those podcasts will help you find that balance. Okay. Number 4 in the kind of the top 5 don't do's as a likable trainer is if a bad trainer doesn't explain why they're doing things. They don't take the time to teach their clients. So this could be why you're losing clients. Is they're coming in, you're telling them a bunch of stuff to do, but you're not necessarily telling them why they're doing it. So they don't really see the point behind it, they don't see the purpose, and they kind of fade out. Whereas oftentimes, especially when you're dealing with people who've had histories of yo-yo diets, where they've had nutrition just improper ways of handling their nutrition. Their metabolism is going to be absolute crap. So therefore, when you start getting into training, when you start getting into nutrition, the results they're going to see are going to be very, very slow, because it's almost like you have to restore them back to healthy before you can then really see the fun progress. And if you don't communicate with them about that, if you don't tell them about that component of it, they're going to think they're not getting results, and they're going to think it's because of you, because they don't have the education enough to know what other reason there might be, and they're going to leave. So you absolutely need to teach your clients. You need to teach them why you're doing what you're doing, so that way they know. They can then kind of have a better understanding and a better level of expectations. So if people come in and they expect to lose 30 pounds in 30 days, you need to teach them why that's not healthy. Can that be done? Oh, hell yeah. Of course you can lose 30 pounds in 30 days. You're going to feel absolutely miserable, and you're going to ruin your metabolism for the next who knows how long, but it can be done. So you need to teach them why they shouldn't do that. So that's very, very, very important in regards to being a trainer, is showing your value. So he said that's one of the other reasons, other than communication, why somebody might not have a ton of clients is once they know you exist, they might not know how valuable you are. Why are you better than other trainers? And if you take the time to teach your clients and you explain to them why you're telling them what you're telling them, that's going to show value. So that's very, very, very important. Okay? So podcast number 545, titled Teaching versus Training Balance. Meaning, how am I going to balance it within a single session? How much do I teach? How much do I actually just get in training? And that's very important to understand, okay? You need to take some time to teach, but you also need to beat the crap out of them and make sure they get a good workout. The fifth and last one is to be on time and be ready. Oh my gosh, can't even believe I have to list this. But you do need to be on time for your clients, and you need to be ready for what to do. So unfortunately, like I said, I've gone to big gyms and seen trainers who show up, a couple minutes late, 5 minutes late. They never even apologize. They just go, oh, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. It's like, well, you need to freaking explain to that person why you're late. So you owe that to them. And you also need to be ready. So too often trainers will show up, they'll chit-chat here and there, and then they'll kind of just wing it by putting together a workout. And it's very obvious to other trainers to see. Maybe the client doesn't know, but they will know eventually, because they either won't see the results they want to see, or you'll put together exercises that don't match well. So you might put together 2 or 3 exercises that all stress the lower back. That person's going to feel really uncomfortable during that training session. They're going to associate working out with feeling uncomfortable. Therefore, they're not going to continue. So you're going to lose them over time. So being on time is just being polite and showing respect. And then also being ready with what you want to do ensures that what you're doing is the best for them, so they can have the best experience. If you would take care of their experience and make it the best it can, then you have a much better retention for clients. Okay? So these are 5 things, and for the most part, if you're listening to this podcast, it means you're probably a good trainer and you're wanting to improve your education. So thank you for doing that. And these are probably things you're already avoiding or doing correctly in some way, but this might be a good opportunity to kind of double check yourself. So you may have that one client who's more of a friend than a client, and you guys do kind of gossip a little bit. You do complain about your life a little bit, and you wonder to yourself, man, they haven't really been progressing. Or they're kind of wishy-washy. They cancel more sessions than other people. It's probably because you're too much of a friend. So this might be a good opportunity to kind of catch your attention on that and see if there's a way that you can improve. So even if you're a trainer who isn't low on clients right now, if you're making any of these 5 mistakes, you eventually will be. So if you are negative, you will lose clients. If you use your cell phone or you don't pay attention to them, you will lose clients. If you have an inappropriate support style, so if you're too much of a drill sergeant, or you're too much of a friend, or you don't know how to modify what type of support to be for each individual person, everybody needs a different level of support. If you don't pay attention to that and you just do what you want to do all the time, you will lose clients. If you don't teach your clients why you're doing what you're doing, you will lose clients. If you're not on time and you're not ready, you will lose clients. So if you're currently struggling with clients, these 5 things may be an issue that you need to look at. If you're not struggling, but you want to ensure that you don't ever struggle with clients, these are 5 things you want to pay attention to. Okay? Now, if you feel like you have these kind of things in order, and maybe you want to look also above these things, you can also look into, like we said, marketing, exposure, pricing structure, things like that. So if you are struggling to get clients and you think, okay, this podcast enlightened me to some things I need to look further into. If you'd like help with that, of course, we're always happy to help. So like I said, we do consult with a lot of trainers. We consult with a lot of gyms, talking with like personal training directors and owners on how to improve their services. So actually a third of the members of Brutal Iron Gym participate in our personal training services. By the way, that's extremely high. The average in most commercial gyms is under 10%. So we have a really high percentage rate, and also above that we have people who participate in our people who participate in our daily podcast, as if you didn't know we had one. So thank you for listening to it. But a lot of the people who maybe can't afford our services, or they're just kind of unsure of the services yet, they get a lot of help through the podcast. So to some degree, we probably shoot ourselves in the foot by giving away so much good information in regards to building more services, but it's also a great resource for everybody, and I'm happy to do it. So if you're struggling with getting clientele up, like we said, you want to look at, do people know you exist? So you need to improve your marketing and your exposure. If you want help with that, of course we can help you with that. We do that all the time. If you don't know how to show your value as a trainer, if you don't know how to show education, whether it's with marketing or whether it's in person with clients, and you want help with that, of course we can help you with that. That's exactly what we do. So I actually have a teaching certification that I taught at Winthrop University, which is a local university, for 7.5 years. So I do know how to teach. So I can help you with that as well. And then if you want help with pricing structures, we have podcasts and tons of information we can give you for that. So if you are struggling as a trainer, we absolutely want you to get clients, because it's amazing that your desire in life is to help others. And we want to help you do that. Okay? So if you need anything at all, please let us know. Our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. Well, hopefully the podcast was helpful. And if you do think it was helpful, please share it. And the more people we share it with, the happier the world will be. So I appreciate if you do share it. It helps expose the podcast to more people, and hopefully we can bring more happy, healthy news into people's lives. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd always love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can email us at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.